Hi guys, my name is Jason Adragna. I'm the owner of Trueline Repair and Remodeling here in Montrose, Colorado. Also serving the Western Slope, so we'll go up to Delta and then down to Ridgeway and anything in between there. So today I want to talk about remodel cost. So I think it's challenging in most cases to get a somewhat decent number to even get an idea on what a project may cost you. So I wanted to provide this as hopefully something that can help you get an idea, get a starting point, and see if the budget can work. So these aren't 100% solid numbers. Those really can't be put together until the project is looked at and certain things are checked that could affect that cost. So, but in general, this is around where you're going to be looking. So a lot of it depends on, again, what sort of structural things might need to be done, how much concrete work, if there's any foundation work. So yeah, lots of things to check out and look out. So, but this should give you a starting point. So, you know, that's what it is, treated as such. It's not something you should go to the bank with and get a loan for based off of these numbers. So if you're to that point where you look at these numbers and it's something that you can afford, it's in your range, then start getting quotes and estimates on the project. And of course, at that point, then you pick the contract you want to go with, and then go to the bank and get the loan to do the job, unless you've got the money in hand to do it. So anyways, full gut remodel. That's what the description says. It's full gut. So we come in, we tear the drywall off, we go down to the studs, we remove the insulation. A lot of cases we'll be removing siding as well. Hopefully the house has decent plywood or OSB on the sheathing, so we don't have to go that far, but in some cases that has to be removed as well. So but that price range, 130 to 170, that's going to include demo to the studs, new insulation drywall, new electrical, new plumbing, new flooring, cabinets, fixtures, all the finished items would be included in that. So what it wouldn't include is a lot of foundation work. There could be some in there. Wouldn't most likely include a lot of concrete work. So again, you could have some amount of concrete, but if we're pouring 600 to 1,000 square feet of concrete, well, that's probably not going to be in that price range, depending on the other parts of the job. So it all depends on the overall scope of the job. So anyways, as far as the finishes in that price range would go, they would be very, very basic finishes. So the $130 range per square foot, you're looking at the lowest cost kitchen cabinets that you can get at Home Depot typically. Same would go for the countertop for those cabinets. So, and then as far as the flooring, for that price range, you're probably looking at stained concrete where it can be done, pretty low cost carpet, and then low cost click down. So due to the ease of installation of click down. So you probably could get in a life proof, depending on the amount of square footage in that price range, which life proof is great. It's a full vinyl flooring system that clicks together. And the beauty of that is that the life of it. So if it gets wet, it's not going to get damaged. It's not too easy to scratch. Anything can be scratched, but it's not one of the easier ones to scratch. So it's going to last. It's going to last a long time. So anyways, that's that price range. Now, if you're going to take an existing single family home, turn it into a duplex, which we did on the project, I'll go over here in a little bit. You're probably looking at more around 150 to 200 square foot. So I think the 200 square foot mark, that would be unusual. That would be a lot of structural work, a lot of concrete, good amount of digging. So because that $200 price range puts you near what you would be paying for a new build. And at that point, it may not make sense. So you may need to step back and say, well, what's the cost to demolish this property and just build from scratch and build brand new? So because a new home is definitely going to be a better option than a remodeled one. So in a lot of cases. So of course, there's other factors there. There's always factors to consider. So, but a duplex ADU conversion is definitely doable around the $150 mark. Again, depending on factors, it could be lower than that. So, what those factors can include is again, how much structural work do we have to do? How much concrete is there to pour? Are we digging a lot? That sort of stuff that really racks up the cost. So if there's not a lot of that, then there's potential there that it can go under 150. So the thing about the duplex and additional costs, there are some code requirements that you'd have to do. If it's just a duplex, and we're not getting into a triplex or a quad, those require more. But a simple duplex, you're going to have a basic fire separation wall between the two parts of the units, the shared wall space, and that wall is going to have rock wool in it. So 2x6 construction. Typically, I like to do staggered stud walls myself in those instances, just because it doesn't cost a lot more to do that. You're talking about double the amount of studs, which that can get a little pricey, but you're talking $4 a stud, depending on the wall length. You're probably not going to be looking at a massive cost increase there. Probably $200 to $400 in material cost, and then the labor to install it, again, it's a little bit more there too. But it's really about the comfort of the units for the tenants at that point. That's really what you're doing it for. If you're willing to spend a little bit more money, $800 to $1,000, give or take, you can have a much better sound proofing setup than just a straight 2x6 wall. So with rock wool in it, rock wool's a great sound insulator. It's also very fire resistant, but then that staggering helps improve that sound protection, because then the vibration from one side isn't able to travel through that drywall and straight through the studs and then make its way onto the other side of the home. And then, of course, a lot of that also includes air sealing. So are we air sealing penetrations through that wall, which we are required to do either way. So that's taken care of for the most part. But the staggering definitely does help. So and you can go steps beyond that too. It's not required in Montrose to do that. Even the staggered stud is not required. So anyways, and then on top of that firewall, you'd have to put a draft stop, which is a little bit of framing, and some drywall, and then some fire rated foam to seal up penetrations through that draft stop. So anyways, that's some of the cost increase on that one, and then of course it's just the increased complexity of the project. Now we're building out separate entrances, separate utility rooms, separate kitchens. Obviously, with a duplex, you're gonna have to have 2 kitchens, at least 2 bathrooms now. Typically, in pretty much every instance, you're going to have 2 electrical meters. So the project that I'm going to go over here shortly, we didn't end up having to do separate water meters in that case. The city didn't require us to do that, luckily, because mainly it was already a single family home with water tap and sewer connection. So we luckily didn't have to go through that process of a separate tap. So anyways, that's kind of the overview. Again, these numbers are not numbers that you can go to the bank with. So these are just a guide for you to have an idea of what sort of cost you're going to be looking at in general. So you need to get some estimates, and then once you have those solid firm estimates from good contractor that outlines everything, that has warranties in there, that doesn't lowball you. Don't go with the low guy. In most cases, you're gonna get hurt in the end, especially with a job like this. There's gonna be surprises. There's gonna be change orders. So you want to have a contractor that's gonna avoid change orders as much as possible. So now again, there's always a surprise in remodels. You could get the mud brick wall hidden behind drywall. So in those cases where you have that happen, and then you have to have a whole exterior wall reframed, that's going to be a change order typically. That's going to be something that's unfortunately going to be added to the project. So going into remodel, definitely do not expect there to be no change in the estimate. So it's rare that happens. You're almost always going to have a change order on a remodel job like this. So just be ready for that and account for that in your loan that you would typically get for this project. So you need to add 10 to 15% buffer just to be safe on that. So anyways, when cost gets higher, again, I kind of already covered this: foundation repairs, structural, changes, layouts, slab replacements, so new sewer, water taps. So, and depending on your area for water and sewer taps, if you're in a redo area in Montrose, then that can significantly reduce the cost there on those taps. So those are really good areas to be in if your home ends up in one of those spots. So real world cost here. So 1,800 square foot remodel, 150 square foot, $270,000 total cost. So again, that cost can be reduced by certain things. So not every project, this is again not the rock solid estimate or cost that you're going to have. So there are ways to reduce that cost and save money. So those are things that the owner can do. For example, if it's a rental, when it comes to appliances, you can buy a lot of appliances on Facebook Marketplace. So now I know that might be frowned on by some people, but it's a rental. So buying brand new appliances and paying full price for those appliances, it may avoid some headache down the road when one of those appliances goes out, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up saving thousands and thousands of dollars by going with those used appliances. So anyways, rental income for that unit ended up being $3,000 a month, give or take. And then the beauty of that project was that the purchase price of the original home was pretty low due to the condition it was in. So that combined with the cost of the remodel, the owner ended up being able to pull around $150,000 to $200,000 in equity. So this was purchased as a rental, so that did have a 25% down when the owner purchased the property. And so anyways, that factored into some additional equity, but even at the end of the day, the other line, you're not looking at the normal 20% max that you can pull out for your home equity. I believe with rental properties, it's typically 25% max, but don't quote me on that. Look that up and double check for yourself on that one. So the point of this is that they have the rental income to cover the mortgage. So they have this equity amount that they were then able to pull out and go and invest in another property and look at building another ADU, or I should say an ADU on another property that they were able to separate that was in a redo zone. So anyways, the equity pool, this goes over that a little bit more. With 3% rule is not bad. It's very conservative. I was just looking up property value increase averages over the last 15 years, and I believe for Colorado it was 5 to 7%, give or take, 4 to 7%. So 3% is very conservative, and every 3% every year, then 5 to 10 years later you pull the equity out again, and that's how you really make your money on rentals. It's not the monthly revenue from the rent. That's really there to pay the mortgage, so you're not paying the mortgage. The equity is how you make your money and lower your liability. So anyways, how to lower your cost, value engineering, flooring strategy. I think I already went over some of this. Stock cabinets from Home Depot, very inexpensive. You would be, I think, surprised at the cost of a kitchen when you're purchasing the lowest priced cabinets from Home Depot. Again, this is a rental, so and you're not, in this case, it's not a high-end rental. So it's a base rental, $3,000 a month. One side, the larger side, I think, is 1,100 square feet, give or take, and I believe it rented out for around $1,600 to $1,800 a month. And then the smaller side, 700 square feet, rented out for $1,200 to $1,400 a month. So anyways, that's where the $3,000 a month mark comes from. But and then bathtub and surrounds, just full fiberglass inserts. So of course you're not going to be doing any full tiled showers, or something like that with this sort of setup if you're going for a rental. If you're remodeling your own home, then of course you're probably going to want those nicer things. So which would increase the cost. So anyways, let's go ahead and look at that job a little bit. So let's click on this. So this is a image of the house before. You can see, we had a skylight that we ended up removing, and then all these windows got replaced. This window ended up turning into a door. Funny that there was 3 windows in the master bathroom. So I don't know why that happened. I don't know why somebody did that, but that's what it was. So we ended up changing that to just 1 window. So 1,800 square foot. We did have structural and fire updates we had to do, and then $3,000 a month revenue. So there's that mud, straw wall that I mentioned before. So it had that window in there, and you could see a little bit. It's pretty obvious that this window up here is sagging. So not a good thing when you see a window bowing and sagging like that. So we knew something was wrong with this window and that we were going to end up replacing it. Unfortunately, we didn't realize that this wall was all mud. So we ended up having to replace the whole wall section here. So there's an image. You can't tell very easily from this picture. It's not a great picture. I wish I had a better one of it. But this is a staggered stud wall. So by staggered stud, there's a 2x6 top and bottom plate, and then on each side of the top and bottom plates, there's a 2x4. So the gap ends up being much smaller between the studs, but the studs are offset to one edge, and then the other edge of the 2x6s. So that's what creates the staggered stud, and then disconnects the drywall from one side to the other than at the top and bottom plates. So and then you have the rock wool in here for the firewall. So a photo of just the 2 new electrical panels. So I tried to get, I wanted the electrician to have a dual housed meter panel. So where this was just one panel instead of two, and anyways, I could not get it at the time. It's just not an option given the delay that we would have seen from getting those panels. So we ended up having to go with two separate panels, two separate 200 amp services. The reason, or part of the reason that they were 200 amp services, is that there's no gas in this house. So there was a gas line to the home. We ended up removing that, mainly because a rental property with gas is a liability. So there's the chance of mainly carbon monoxide poisoning is what I'm always concerned with when I'm talking to a client about a rental property. So I've heard it before. I knew somebody personally that their family almost died because of carbon monoxide poisoning, and they were renting. So from an owner perspective, that's something you don't want to deal with. Having the chance that you have a furnace with a bad heat exchanger on it, cracked heat exchanger, and that then blows carbon monoxide through the home, and people lose their lives, it's not worth it. So if you're doing a remodel like this and it's a rental, I really recommend going with either baseboard electric like we did in this house, or heat pump units that don't need they don't burn gas, so they don't have to have that. So anyways, now of course the downside to baseboard heaters is you have a lot of electrical load. So that drove up the requirement to a 200 amp panel. And today, in today's world, you're not really going to ever do an install with anything less than a 200 amp panel. It's not worth it. The cost savings are minimal for the equipment, and the install time for the electrician is pretty much the same. There's really no change just because you have a 150 amp panel versus a 200 amp panel, which, from my experience, really equates to just less amount of space for breakers to be installed. So anyways, minimal cost savings there. Go with the 200 amp. That's the way to go. And in this case, we had baseboard heaters, which the 200 amp well covered, not a problem at all with this square footage of home. Another benefit of the baseboard heaters is that then each room has its own thermostat. So people in their own bedrooms can change the temperature to their liking. It's not just set by one shared thermostat out in a hallway that dad goes and screams at people about. So my home actually has baseboard heaters in it. I still have to go tell my kids to turn their heaters down sometimes, but anyways, so and then in our climate, of course, we have the option to use evaporative coolers, swamp coolers. That saved a lot of money there. I want to say we went with the same size swamp coolers or evaporative coolers for each side. One side's only 700 square feet. That really I didn't find. I looked a bit, didn't find a smaller evaporative cooler for that side because I didn't want to overdo it either. So there's no reason to put in this massive swamp cooler when you don't need to. So it's just going to blow more air through the home, potentially more moisture being soaked up by certain stuff, furniture, and the like, flooring systems potentially if you don't go with a full vinyl system. So anyways, and some people really don't like the evaporative cooling and the moisture that it adds to the air. But in Colorado, in our climate, 30-35% average humidity percentage, I believe. So that's usually it's a nice thing to have a swamp cooler, and that's why they work in our environment. So and very, very cost effective to run, very minimal cost there, especially compared to an AC system, forced air AC system. So and the install cost for each of them, I believe, was around $2,000, give or take. The equipment itself, I want to say, was around $1,000 total, and then a day to install each unit. That involved cutting through the roof. With this we could plan ahead for these ones, so we didn't have to retrofit the inside portion. So that was a lot easier to get the ductwork in, of course. So with a remodel, if you're not fully gutting it, you're probably going to be looking at a little bit more, than $2,000 for the install part, or for the total price, because the install is going to be a little bit more. Just because crawling through an attic takes additional time. Depending on where you can put it and everything, it may be a longer duct run. These duct runs on this house were straight down, literally just cut a hole in the roof and we piped it straight down into the home. So they were such small homes, 700 square feet, 1,100 square feet. There wasn't really a need to run multiple ducts out of that. So anyways, that's that. And then moisture control stuff. This is just a little tiny detail here, but it's a rental, and a lot of people do not turn their fans on in their bathrooms when they go in there for showers. It's not a good thing. It will eventually build up moisture, and you can start to get mold and everything. I'm sure all of you know about what the effects of can be. So we wired those bathroom fans with the lights. So you walk into the bathroom, the fan's on no matter what. So and that's just something to go back and forth with, I guess, with the builder and owner, and see what they want to do there. But yeah, I in that case, talk to the owner, and that's what we ended up doing. So just to avoid that problem completely. Now, one thing to do with this is, the nice thing to do for the tenants is to make sure you purchase a quiet fan. So the quieter the better in this case, but within reason, of course. If it's going to massively increase your cost, then not worth it. But we're not talking about a inline fan system, where the fan unit itself is in the attic, and it's 6 to 10 feet away from the bathroom. So that's what I have installed in my home. They're great. They're very quiet. I mean, barely hear it. You can barely hear it at all. So, so for rental, not really needed. So, anyways, and then we've got high value, flooring. Yep, the stained concrete part again. Delta. I like Delta. Faucets and products overall. Moen makes good stuff too. Of course, there's really high-end manufacturers of those types of things. You can spend thousands of dollars on those items if you decide to go with those high-end models of faucets and fixtures. But anyways, in a rental, obviously we're not going to do that. Delta has some very budget-friendly valves and faucet systems that you can get, and the beauty behind that is that if you ever have a problem, you can go to Home Depot and you can buy that cartridge, or your repairman can buy that cartridge for $20 to $50, and you're back up and going. So you had a leaky bathtub, and $20 to $50, yourself, if you're fixing it yourself, and then of course you got to tack on $100 maybe, give or take, if your repairman has to come out, depending on how much he has to do, 100 to 200. So $150 to $250 maybe, depending on the time it takes to fix it. So, and some plumbing houses, they may charge a lot more than that, or plumbing outfits. They I could easily see one of them charging, $300 to $500 for something like that, with some of the prices that I've seen in our area from specific companies. So, reasonable fix on that, should be $200 to $300 at the most. So, it's a quick fix typically. You're normally looking at something that, if the guy has it on his truck, by chance, and he doesn't have to go buy it. Now, of course, he had to buy it at some point, so he's going to charge you for that either way, really. But the time that it took. So anyways, $150. I don't see that as an unreasonable amount. I think it's fair. So, anyways, $3,000 a month. And with the monthly rental, income for this home, again, that's not the main thing. The main thing for the owners is the equity. So we built a ton of equity into this home, remodeling it, changing it from a single family to a duplex, and that's really where the value was in this project. So the monthly income, sure, you can charge $3,000 a month now, give or take, and you can have that revenue, and hopefully you have at least a positive cash flow, or at least break even on this rental income for the property. But that's not where you typically will make your money in a rental. It's going to be the equity. It's going to be pulling that equity out every 5 to 10 years. That's where you make your money. And then of course, you're charging, you're having to increase the rent cost if you can, 3%, give or take a year, to then cover that increased mortgage cost when you pull the equity out. So, anyways, so here's some pictures of the project. I should flip these pictures around, but anyways, I have like over 700 pictures from this project, but we did have to tear out all the flooring that was around this area here, and the floor joist came out. That brought us down to the dirt. Then we dug that down a little bit. We didn't have to do too much, thankfully. Plumbers came in, plumbed everything, and then we were able to go back over that. Plate compact the gravel, get everything to the proper grade again after the plumbers, and then concrete guys came in, put down plastic, rebar, poured the pad, and that's what we got there inside. So that one right there, if anybody doesn't know, that's a box for the shower that went right here, which is actually that shower right there. So anyways, this right here was just showing a little bit of work that had to be done in the master bedroom area on the larger side. So you can see that this big crack line right here, was pretty bad. So you can see these lines in this. This is actually from a scarifier. So that's used to remove concrete, and make it somewhat of a usable surface. So now in some cases you would go back over that, and smooth that concrete out, make it look nice. In this case, though, we ended up going straight over this, so we didn't need to do that. This area here was too high, and we couldn't get the scarifier in close to this wall here, so we ended up having to just cut that concrete out and remove it. So anyways, we re-poured this concrete section here, and then we self-leveled this floor, because I believe from this corner to over here we had about a 2 to 2.5 inch difference between the heights of the floor. So we couldn't leave it like that. Could you? Yeah, you could. There's nothing that says that you can't, but that's not really going to be ideal for your renters. Yeah, ideally just spend the money, put the self-leveler down, and do it the right way. If you absolutely can't, then I guess that is what it is. So if that was the case, then we do the scarifying here. We remove as much as we safely can from this concrete, cut this out, pour it, and then we would go back over this, seal this crack up, well, all these cracks and gaps, seal that stuff up, and then go over it with carpet. In this case, is what that room ended up getting. So anyways, you can see right here, these are baffles for insulation. So we did blown in cellulose insulation. I'm a big fan of that over fiberglass blown in insulation. So we took that insulation R value up to about 50 R50 in that attic for the whole house, and so these baffles help us keep that airflow coming in from the soffit through the roof line and out the vents. So and then you can see these white cardboard. They're cardboard. They're coated cardboard insert there that we just stapled in. I'm a little detail oriented, so I did have one of our guys just go in and make sure and foam any gaps that were a little large, because these pieces here actually did not match, or did not go perfectly with this brand here. They were two different brands, unfortunately. So it was a very good fit from massive majority of them, but we had a few that had foamed just to make sure. So didn't want to have any insulation getting out. So anyway, so this area here we ended up having to put some spray foam in on this roof line and this roof line. This is the kitchen, so we ended up having to raise the roof in this room. So you can see these new rafters here, and we ended up having to put a header right here. You can see that stack built up that goes all the way from this wall and then over into here. We actually have a post built up right here that's inside the laundry room, which worked out great because you can't put a washer dryer all the way flush against the back wall anyway, so it wasn't a problem to have that post back behind them. So anyways, a lot of insulation here. This is a slope ceiling here, so you can have that slope come out, and I believe the code is it can be as low as 5 feet, as long as the square footage of the room at that 5 foot level is not more than, I want to say 40%, 40 to 60%. So anyways, that's where we were able to have that sloping roof line there, and then we ended up jacking this roof up. This roof area was originally built with 2x4s and improperly built. So anyways, so we had to jack the roof up because we wanted to save it. We didn't want to have to redo the roofing. The roofing materials were actually fairly new. I think they were put in the last 5 to 10 years, give or take. So we wanted to save that. All of those exterior walls in this section had to be replaced as well because they were 2x4s. Now, did they have to? Not technically. We could have spray foamed those walls, but that would not have been cost effective. So we had to jack up the roof no matter what. This wall right here had to be cut down. These walls here had to be adjusted as well for the new roof pitch. So it just made the most sense to tear them out, redo them, and then just bring the roof back down and drop it on the new wall there. So, anyways, and then this is the dining room / family room, depending on how the renters wanted to set it up. So that floor ended up getting a lot of self-leveler as well, and then the kitchen floor back over here ended up getting a lot as well. So the fridge was actually originally there on site when we started the remodel. The owner wasn't sure what they were going to do with it, so we ended up just working around it for the most part. It wasn't that big of a deal, so anyways, and then you can see the distance here from the header, or sorry, the top plates up to this new rafter, bottom that of exposed ceiling. So over here, you'll see, I think, in another photo that we weren't able to put cabinets in that area, but upper cabinets. So anyways, this is just a photo of the tear out, the full gut down to the studs, all that blown in insulation coming down, and then we just go back in and clean all that up, clean up the studs and everything, and clean all that, get it ready for the work moving forward. These are original pictures of the home before we started the remodel. So that's master bathroom, master bedroom. This was the living room area. One of them did have 2 living rooms. So we ended up cutting the entry right here into the 1,100 square foot side. So it worked out really well. This wall over here didn't move at all, I don't believe. This went away. This was the original bathroom. The new bathroom was pretty much located in almost the same spot, but with different dimensions. So it stuck out, less into this area than this one did. So, but we ended up having a coat closet right here. We had to cut the foundation out a little bit right there to put that door in. So this is that self-leveling going in the master bedroom there. So you can kind of see, so there's the scarified concrete, blue for the primer. There's that new concrete we poured, and then you can see its steps. So first step, second step, and I believe there's a third step back here somewhere. So we stepped the OSB up to make sure not use as nearly as much self-leveler. If we hadn't done that, we would have been much more costly on the self-leveler side. So anyways, and then prime that, and then lath. When you're using OSB, you have to make sure that you buy the proper self-leveler. Not all self-levelers work with OSB, so just something to pay attention to. And then you can see the plastic up here and foam to prevent that self-leveler from seeping out and getting down into areas that we don't need it to be in. So there's a picture of the draft stop that we had to put in. So per code, that's above the firewall. I believe it turns here 90s and then goes down and meets up with an old roof line that was there. You can see part of the old gable end of the house right here. So I believe this house had, I want to say, 3 or 4 additions to it over its lifespan. So we had to do our best to bring those together and especially on the siding. So, but that's just another picture of the master kitchen there, spray foam. So pretty deep window well here. So we had to add another interior wall here and on this side because current plumbing codes, you can't have water lines running in an exterior wall. So anyways, had to do that to meet that code. Blocking for our cabinets there, and then like I said, over here because of the slope, we weren't able to put in upper cabinets right here. So we have the sink right here in front of the window, dishwasher, fridge ended up being here, stove here. So, and that spot did get filled in there, so we didn't leave that just hanging like that. So, farmhouse sink here. Surprisingly, one way to save money on projects like this is the owner actually bought this on Facebook Marketplace. So I think that ended up costing around, I want to say $80 is what they bought that for. And that farmhouse sink's probably normally $300 to $400. So that's what these owners ended up doing with the appliances as well. So they bought appliances off Facebook Marketplace, saved thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's the master bathroom there. Nothing too fancy there. Well, if you can see it, that's not low enough. So the owners actually did have this set of cabinets that got pulled out from another job. So we were able to reuse those. It had some filler pieces that we had to put in on the sides, but worked out pretty well. There's the smaller side kitchen. So again, nothing fancy. These are the least costly cabinets that you can get from Home Depot. So very inexpensive cost here for this kitchen. I want to say the cabinets were $1,000 to $1,500, something like that. Maybe around that price, I think. And then the countertops were just again ordered through Home Depot. Least costly countertop, I believe. Again, so with a rental, not a high-end rental. This is not a high-end rental. There's a little things like that you can do to save money. So because if you walk into Home Depot and you talk to one of their people about building out cabinets like this, I'm not even sure that they have these cabinets in their system. They might. I didn't go in there and talk to them. I just took my own measurements and ordered the cabinets that I needed. So, but I would think most cases they're probably not going to be trying to sell these to people. So, anyways, again, you could go in there and ask them, see what they'll give you. There's nothing fancy about any of these cabinets. They're just. I mean, you can see there's almost no drawers in this setup. I think there's a drawer there, and there, and that's it. So there's no drawer bank units in this kitchen. So that decreases cost, and of course there's nothing fancy added to any of these. There's no spice racks that pull out or KitchenAid mixing cabinets where it's held in the cabinet and comes up, and you pull out and start using it. So nothing like that here. So, and actually the owner bought that sink, cast-iron porcelain sink that they picked it up, and it was I think sitting out in outside and looking a little dirty, but cleaned it up, threw it in, works no problem, no major cracks or anything like that. And that was I think that was like $35 that they paid for that. That's a $300 to $400 sink new. So anyways, again, little cost savings can add up over time. So you might notice there's no base anywhere in this house. So that was another thing that it ended up saving money, but the drywaller hadn't done it before. We tried it with them. They gave us the price on it. It was significantly less. I think it was almost half the price of doing standard baseboard throughout the entire home, standard trim. And so what this is, it's a Z shadow bead from Trimtex. So you have to change up your process a little bit. You've got to put the doors in first so that the drywallers have, or you can do it a little differently, but we put the doors in the jambs first, and then the drywallers were able to come in and put that shadow bead in, which essentially just goes on the edge of the drywall, and it's in the shape of a Z, and so it creates a shadow, but that end point butts up against the backside of the door jamb. And so anyways, you just mud it and it's good to go. So you might try that. You might talk to your drywaller and see if they're competent and capable of doing it. With this house, and it being the first time that they had done it, we had some issues. It didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped, so we ended up having to come back in and put some baseboard in, mainly in this concrete area. So this did end up getting some baseboard on this wall, and then on the opposite side of that wall and some other places. So overall, though, it worked out. I think the cost savings still made it worthwhile, even though we did have to come back, put a little bit of trim over. So that's just the outside vinyl is what we ended up doing. That's that door that we cut there. Some flashing work at the bottom. And then this is the finished bathroom. Again, this is a rental, so you have again a used appliance there, as that was bought on Marketplace, a stacked washer and dryer unit. So is this room a little tight? Yeah, it's a little tight. You get in there, and this is it's enough to get past. You can get past this. It's a little tight, but that it is what it is. So that was the layout we were able to work with. That's as efficient as we could do it. So stock little cabinet from Home Depot, inexpensive light from Home Depot, medicine cabinet from Home Depot. Not a lot of storage in here, but it is what it is. It's a 3-bedroom, 700 square foot rental unit. It's tight. Like you're probably gonna end up having to use the closets of the bedrooms for keeping some stuff. So anyways, this one-piece tub. These are great. A little bit more. We've installed one-piece and multi-piece tubs before, so the one-piece tubs are a little less labor. You can throw them in. Well, I say that. They can be a little bit less labor. So you throw them in and you're mostly done. You want to put a bed under them just to support the weight of the person, but other than that, they're pretty straightforward. So, this bar here, I think this is a great little detail for rentals because it's screwed in. So it's screwed into the framing around the shower there, or the bathtub. That way you don't get any of those extension pole type setups going on. Those almost inevitably will fall off. They're going to probably damage your paint and your drywall in that area that they're being put in. Getting a good one. This is not a great one. This is a very, very budget one from Home Depot. I think that rod with the mounts there on each end was, I want to say $20 at Home Depot. I highly recommend you buy a much better one off of Amazon. I believe they're about $50, and so much better of a mounting system than this one. I could see this one coming down if somebody accidentally put some weight on it, or a decent amount of weight. But the other models that I'm talking about, not at all. No chance that those are going to come down at all. And actually, let me give me just a second, and I'll just bring those up and show you those on Amazon. So I actually have one in my home. So of this exact model here. So yeah, so there you go. That's this is the one that I've put in other homes. it's great because it has this mounting bracket right there, and that gets screwed into the wall. Ideally, you want to hit studs. If you can't hit studs, I would put in a pretty high weight, either a toggle bolt there, or there's another system that has a longer plastic strip in it that can be used for really thick, wide concrete blocks, those types of things. Anyways, very high weight rating on those. Those could be used in this case. So anyways, these are just great because you screw the base in there, and then that cap, that cover piece there, screws over that base unit. Very strong system. Yeah, definitely recommend it. And for $44, depending on what color you want, 44 to $56. So for the bronze, yeah, highly recommend it. Works great. So, anyways, and then funny, kind of, this right here, and this, and the towel bar here, and I think that toilet paper holder were actually all ordered on Temu. So, yeah, very, very inexpensive at that point. This was before the tariffs, I think. Hit just before the tariffs hit, they ordered those. So maybe not as cheap as it used to be, but anyways, yeah, very inexpensive. And then this gives some extra storage space just for some towels that can be stacked in here and some stuff that can be added there. So given the limited amount of storage space, that was put in to hopefully help with that to some degree. So and then the bathroom or the kitchen. This is more of a finished photo here. You can see the sink installed there. We've got this inexpensive. I think that was maybe $100, $80 to $100, give or take, something like that, from Home Depot. So not too costly there. Used dishwasher off of Facebook Marketplace. So, and then inexpensive lights here. The thing about these lights, you see a lot of people going to LED, little remodel boxes and lights, just with the flip up toggles, and those were used in one area of this home, but everything else in this home were these lights here, and well, except for the closets. The closets we ended up putting in something similar to an LED one, but those little closet lights from Home Depot, very inexpensive. If you're doing a budget project like this, like a remodel, or like this, it's not just a budget project because it's a remodel, but the fact it's going to be a rental. You have to meet the code requirement for a closet light. You can't have an exposed bulb in a closet. So, could you put something like this in there? Sure, yeah, it has a cover on it. No one's going to break that bulb, even though pretty much all bulbs today, for the most part, are plastic bulbs because they're all LED. So the code hasn't caught up, I don't think. I mean, now could you break the LED bulb off? The cover. Sure, you could damage it somehow. So I guess, yeah, it is what it is. The code's not going to change. So, but instead of doing something weird like this in a closet, or spending, $20 for one of those little insert pieces, they have a surface mount light that you can use from Home Depot. That again, very, very inexpensive. It's got a specific purpose to go into, a closet typically, or a utility closet, and so. Let me see if I can find it on Home Depot's website a little bit or quickly. They kind of, I had a hard time finding it before when I started looking for this because I don't know why. Oh, never mind. Pretty easy to find actually. So it's this light right here. You have to have a light in there that does not have a bulb. So if it's exposed at all, or if it's basic light like this, so $6. That's a that's the cheapest one you can find as far as I've ever found. $6, you can meet that code, and you can put a light. You don't have to put a light in the closet; it's not required. But it is so much nicer for people to get that, than to not have anything in the closet. It makes it so much better for people to be able to see in there. So for $6, and I think electricians are around, hopefully around $35 a box. If they're doing a whole home, now I'm not talking an electrician just coming in and adding one light for you, and in a finished home that would cost more, but in a full gut remodel or new construction, 35, 45 bucks a box, maybe up to 50. So anyways, yeah, $6 on top of that, and you get lights in your closets for your clients. Now they do have the pull chain one, a little bit more there, but that's going to save you because then you don't have to worry about the electrician wiring in a switch for this, which again is going to add another 35, 45 bucks to the overall job. Anyways, so there's that product there. There's tons of products that were used throughout this house, but those are just some key ones that I wanted to mention. So the other reason for these lights, there's no reason, or there's no LED burnout here. Like you are not going to have problems with these lights ever, other than changing the bulbs. So most likely, of course, there's always the occasional weird thing that comes up where one of these gets damaged, or something happens to it, and or the cover gets broken off, whatever it may be. But very uncommon for this type of light that is a very basic light, to have problems. So anyways, the tenants can be responsible for the bulbs. They go in there, swap them themselves when they go out, and boom, you don't have a problem with an entire fixture going out that now you have to go and spend $50 to $100 to replace. And that's if you do it yourself. That doesn't include labor, if you are having to pay an electrician to come in and do that. So anyways, some people might notice this little heater. There's a very, very minimal amount of space that is exposed to an external wall for this kitchen. It's literally just right here, past this corner here, and I want to say it's around 2.5 feet, and that's literally the entire exposure for this room to the exterior. So when I was doing this remodel, I like using, I love building science, so I ended up using a website that I use from time to time to do a JCalc. And a JCalc is just from the J manual of HVAC codes or documentation that HVAC people use to meet certain codes and make things, make sure things are done to a standard. So anyways, we maybe didn't even have to put a heater in that room realistically, but I like to be safe than sorry, so we put a little, I think 2 foot or maybe a 30-inch, something like that, baseboard heater. You can just see it popping out right there, and then the thermostat right over there. So keep that room nice and comfortable. No issues with the temperature. Same thing for the bathroom. The bathroom had about not the same thing. It had about a 5-foot wall section, I believe, maybe 6 that was exposed to outside wall. And then it had a window in there. So that ended up getting a little heater as well, 24 or 30-inch, something like that. So, and of course, you got to watch your heater, mix. If you can do it really well, if you can work with your electrician, like the amount of heaters equates to more watts. The more watts equates to more breakers. So ideally, you're not going to end up having one little tiny heater on a 20 amp double pole breaker, and that's it. So this ended up working out really well. We were able to really utilize the majority of the available watts for those baseboard heater circuits, and not have an extra breaker just sitting out there, not really putting out much power to a heater. So anyways, though, so yeah, that's the overview. That's just some pictures. There's a ton more pictures of this project that I could show, but I think that covers it for the most part. Luckily, we didn't have a lot of things that we had to deal with on the roof. That was pretty solid. We didn't do a ton with the sheathing once we removed the siding. There were some areas we had to replace, but it wasn't too bad. Yeah, overall, good project. Took a little bit of time to take care of everything and fix everything properly, but we got it done right, and I think there's a pretty minimal amount of callbacks, or we haven't gotten very many callbacks. I think we'd have a little electrical issue. There was a loose wire somewhere, so that had to get dealt with, and other than that, I think that's the main other issue. One thing I would have done differently with this project, and I think every home nowadays should have water leak detection and systems put in. So, water is a huge issue when it starts coming out. So it can really damage a lot of stuff. So in this home, for example, that we had the little electrical problem, we had to come back and take care of that. But what the other problem that came up was there was a fridge that it was purchased off of Marketplace on the smaller side, and the owners ended up, and we helped them with it, had to swap a valve on the bottom of the fridge. So the water valve on the bottom of the fridge did not work. So the fridge didn't put out water, didn't put out ice. Okay, fine, no big deal. With that valve replaced, great, everything's working. Well, that valve, for whatever reason, and we had an icebox line run behind the locations for the fridges in both sides. So for whatever reason, that valve broke, the new one broke, and it just started spraying water everywhere. And unfortunately, the tenants did not have any idea how to turn it off. So that ran, I think, for a few hours, unfortunately, just spewing water out. And I am assuming they were trying to clean it up or trying to contain it as best they could. Unfortunately, they did not They didn't realize that you could pull the fridge out fairly easily, pull it straight out, and then turn the valve off that's in the wall, in the icebox. So or the water supply, for the icebox. So anyway, in the wall. Anyways, they didn't realize that. So water eventually came out and got onto the flooring, which was not life-proof. It was not full vinyl flooring. Got under it and ended up damaging some of that flooring, which is now, buckled up in a few spots near the kitchen. So is it enough of a problem for the owners to worry about it at this point? Not really. It's probably going to stay the way it is for a while. So, there's probably multiple ways to fix that. I think I've seen some other guys, they'll drill a hole through one of the joints, a small hole, and then you can get some glue down in there through pretty much a needle, and inject that down and weigh that section down so it bonds the floor there, and that's one way to take care of it without ripping it all out, or ripping that section out and putting in replacement flooring in that area. So anyways, if you're doing a project like this, or any remodel, new construction, whatever it may be, put in a leak detection system. So put it at every point where there's water, under every sink, at the washer, if you have a pot filler behind or above your stove, put one behind the stove. So at the washer washer and dishwasher. So make sure you put one under the dishwasher. Nowadays you can actually build in, they have bases that you can set your washing machine in and your dishwasher. I'm pretty sure I've seen them for washing machines as well. Dishwashers more and more common. That will collect the water, and then you can actually drain those out. So you could drain them outside the house directly, just out the side, or out the foundation, or if you want to, you can tap it into a sewer line. So if you have your plumber do that ahead of time. But anyway, so just something to think of. You have those leak detectors. Those leak detectors are connected to a system that is also connected to a main water shutoff, and then any of those go off, water turns off, and you don't have huge problems with water damage. It can save you a ton of headache, ton of hassle, and they're not that expensive. There's a lot of options out there to be able to put those systems in. Wired is always the best. There's a lot of wireless systems for retrofit, which I think are great as well. They're definitely something that you can use. But if you're in this stage, if you're in a remodel stage, absolutely, have your electrician if they can, or call a low voltage company and have them come in, wire those up, and then make sure your plumber puts in a valve that can connect to those sensors and turn the whole house off if it gets set off. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's the one thing I wish this project would have had. It would have avoided that problem with the fridge that ended up happening. So anyways, long video. If you've watched it this far, I would be amazed. But yeah, thanks for your time, and hope it was useful.